guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mill Social Talk podcast. We're happy that you've been listening. We ask that you support us, keep us, and please share our videos. Please share. Thank you for supporting Mills Realty and Mills Management. But this is the Mill Social Talk podcast. We really appreciate you sharing and telling folks about us, and keep on following us. So today, myself and Renzo, we were talking about estate planning.
Yeah, man.
And so Renzo wanted to know a little bit, let me tell you, we're not lawyers, right?
Yeah.
We have an idea. We want to share things with you that we think that is important to for you, the seller, or you, the owner, to know about what's going on when it comes to figuring out estate plan, how important it is. And so, as Renzo had some questions, I want to kind of answer it. And as I answer those questions, I want you guys to maybe, if you have any issues, please call us or go to millsreal.com, send us a message. We'll get back to you. And again, this is the Mills Social Talk podcast. And Renzo has some questions, so I want to kind of go over those questions with him. I'm
just a humble 26-year-old man, and I got a lot of questions. And it's just... Renzo Loyola, I'm one of his agents, been here for about three years and some change, you know what I mean? So
I'm learning a lot, by the way.
I'm telling you.
He's probably more advanced than a normal 3-year-old agent or broker, right? Because he's heard me talk so much about so many different things that he's becoming more rounded. And which I'm glad, right?
I've never seen a man make more phone calls in like the span of 2 hours while driving. It's insane. You know what I mean? So I'm just like a sponge, and I have to be a sponge. I just kind of have to take it all in. And one of the things that I'm taking, it's not just career advice, right? And like the business, the craft of being. It's not. I get a lot of that, right? Of course, but then there's also like real life kind of things that he's like, as an entrepreneur and as just a man and and I hope to have a family one day. We talk about that, and of course he has his own family, and of course you have a son with autism, and you have a daughter and then a son overseas, right? So you have a legacy to to look after, and whereas I don't have much.
I always say he's a youngin', right? He's a youngin', so it'll all come together soon. It'll all come together.
I'm looking at my assets, and all I got is just like like candy and stuff. So I don't really got. I got like Jordans, you know what I mean? Like my assets are like not much, you know what I mean? I got my computer, right?
But it's okay, you'll get there.
Right. You'll get there. And specifically, we're talking about like titled assets, right? And we're talking about, but anyway, we're talking about estate planning, because you recently started a trust, right, like a year ago, anyway, we're talking about death here in pretty much bottom line.
It's not so much death, it's more like life.
Yeah, like life, and preparing for preparing for like just bad things, right? And as a young guy, like, I'm invincible, you feel?
I know, you feel it. You think you are invincible, right?
Yeah, I'm young, I got energy, I don't know nothing, but I'm just like excited to try out the world and just kind of just see where my life goes. But then I'm seeing you kind of prepare your legacy, prepare these things, and kind of, you're in just a different part of your life, so I wanted to talk more about estate planning and what that is, and to explain it to people like me who don't even think about it. In summarize, what is estate planning?
Well, it's basically putting yourself, not being legal. I'm not saying not being legal, not legal term, but putting yourself in a position, putting your kids, I'm going to say, in a position that in the eventual demise of husband and wife, the kids are protected. The kids, your legacy is being carried on without going through the courts. Your legacy is can carry through without your kids having to go through this fight, this probate, all these problems that arise from when you do not have a trust. When you do not have a trust, some people think, I have a will. Yeah, but that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say, well, I got insurance. That's not enough. You want to put yourself in a position, or put your kids in a position of your eventual demise, that everything runs smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
That in the eventual demise of mom and dad, you can say, okay, I'm taking over my mom and dad asset without having to go into a lot.
So let me ask you this, Leroy. If my father and my mother were in their deathbeds and they wrote down 5 seconds before they passed away, they wrote down on a piece of paper everything and all their wishes, and then they gave it to my oldest brother.
No, that doesn't work.
And
You still got to go to the courts.
yeah, okay.
You still, and then of course, it costs more money because now you got to hire a lawyer to go to court and says, well, Mr. and Mrs. only had 3. So those 3 kids do not have to go through the changes of going through the courts. That's why you want to get a trust. And some people say we have a will. Will's not enough. Okay, so that's sort of the reason why you want to have a trust. Plus, everything belongs to the trust, right? So if you family passed away, the house belongs to the trust. It doesn't belong to you. Your taxes are not affected because it belongs to the trust. That's why you have a trust.
And again, we're talking about we're pretty much talking about probate court, and we're talking about this only really and correct me if I'm wrong. This only pertains to titled assets, meaning cars, houses, pretty much. If someone dies, any titled asset totaling, and all title assets totaling more than $100,000, if there's no death kind of vehicle, if there's no proper will, and if there's no trust, that the government will take that, and you will have to go to court to fight for to get that back, to get that transferred to the heirs. And now, if you go through that process in probate court, what may happen is, let's just say it's just a house, right? Let's just say it's a house, and we're thinking about a pie.
Yes.
Right. We're thinking about a pizza pie, right? And mom, dad, grandpa, whoever dies, and they leave this pie, meaning the assets, right? Just leaves a pie.
Yeah.
So who gets the pie after? Is it just the kids? What if grandpa had 3 kids, but one of them died, but the one had 4 kids?
Right. So it always goes down. It's a tree root.
Right.
Mom and dad died. Let's deal with the kids that are alive.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of important. There's three kids, or 3 or 4 or 5 kids that are alive. Let's deal with the kids that are alive. So you get a pie, and this pie is this house that's worth $500,000. When it's all said and done, it's divided up $100,000 each. Right? What happened is that $500,000 that's divided up. If for some reason something happens to that person, that their kids
are gonna split the 1/5.
The 1/5, right? Yeah. So you got 4 kids. So something happens to mom and then there's 5 kids. The eldest brother or the youngest brother can't go in and say, well, mom and dad said it's mine. No, it's not yours. It belongs to all of us.
Right.
Because mom and dad never had, or they can have control over that property if mom and dad left them as the trustee of that property. And if the trustee, then yes, you have the right to sign off on it. But that still doesn't mean it's all yours, right? You and sister and brother and other brother, they all have a piece of the pie. So that's how it's divided up. And then after it's divided up, then your sibling, your kids, and their kids, and so
it all go down.
It flows down.
Right, and the thing is, by law, they're entitled to that money. You can't just say, "Hey, I'm the eldest. Why does the grandchildren have a piece of the pie?" Just because you're Everyone, but if they
not
never,
so much the grandchildren, but the children of the immediate,
yeah,
right? The immediate brother and sister, their kids. That's a portion. That portion can fall down to them.
Just depending on how things shake up.
Depending how it shape up.
Yeah.
But that's the tree root that actually goes down. The lineage that goes from, if now you have the tendency by entirety where if mom dies, it goes to dad, dad dies, it goes to mom. But after that,
it'll get split.
Then it goes down.
Okay. So there was, we went to a little meeting. What inspired this kind of whole thing is that we went to a little meeting talking about, they were talking about estate planning. And anyway, in that thing, there was basically 3 vehicles or 3 things that you can kind of set up for death. One is a will. So if I think from what I remember of what is needed from a will, it needs to be signed and notarized by the person who's making the will. 2 witnesses that cannot be blood related.
Sure.
So it has to be two stranger friends, or not stranger, but just 2 friends or 2 people, witnesses. I think a lawyer and the person who's making the will. It has to be notarized, which is, well, how much does it get to get notarized per
Not too much.
Not too much, but I don't know, not too much. So you get notarized per, and then it takes about like $100 to record it at the city, right, at the recorder's office, right? So that's only it's a maybe a few days work, a few $100, but now your will is recognized by the state, so that so what can happen is you say, hey, I died. You can just say, hey, court, the will is right here, and then the judge will be like, oh, okay, we'll just go by the will because it's recognized and all that stuff. The second one is, and you can get it from a city. You can actually record. There's a document. A death transaction document, but basically it's another document that you can get from literally the city website, and it's just a form saying, hey, when I die, I can transfer my house. And there's a separate form for cars, right? For any kind of titled property that you have, titled asset you have, the government has a form to say, if I die, do this. All you have to do is, again, get it notarized and then take it to get recorded. Which is just as good as a will. So that's option 2. And then the third option, which I think which Leroy loves this option, for me, it's like a whole wizardry kind of, you know what I mean? I don't even understand it, you know what I mean? But it's a trust, and I hear this thing called trust fund babies. I hear all these things. So what is a trust? Which is the third vehicle, which I assume is the most expensive out of the 3.
Well, that's what I explained earlier, so that once mom and dad pass away, you have this instrument that you're using to make sure that their assets are still kind of
right.
Let me use the word legacy and kind of keep moving on.
Right.
Now, but then there's one of the best things I think we can do is have like a living trust. You have different kinds of trust, but we normally try to have people have a living trust. You have irrevocable trust where you put it there, it's irrevocable, you can't do nothing about it, or irrevocable trust. We have the living trust. So the living trust is whereas mom and dad set it up, and if you, the eldest or the youngest, decide that y'all going to act out, they can actually change that trust. To say, well, Renzo, you're not doing right, so you ever heard of people kicking you out of the will? Mm-hmm. Okay, so now they kick them out of the trust.
Oh yeah, we took you out of the will,
right?
Yeah.
So they take you out of the trust, or they decide not to put you inside the trust. So that stuff like that happens all the time, where mom and dad say, guess what? We're gonna change the will because it's a living will. Because this document is a document that you can change all the time. But this is the best thing This is the best thing to use when it comes to title documents. Okay, a living trust to pass your legacy on to your kids. Not a will, not a piece of paper, but a creative trust.
And this is the analogy that the lawyer at the meeting said. The trust is kind of like a backpack.
It is.
That when that thing's in those backpack, no one can touch it. and someone is wearing that backpack, but basically, it puts all these assets
into the bank,
right? So Leroy, right? You've got some properties of your own, right? And you've got some things, some cars and stuff, right? Like, so you put all this stuff in the backpack, and it protects it from litigation.
Correct.
So if you, your wife, your daughter, or anybody that trusts gets sued or fails to make a payment or they can't go after what's in your trust because it's
They
protected.
can only go what's in that particular trust. Because I mean, before don't get crazy. I mean, when you have a lot of different properties, you have what's called series trust. All right, so if you have 5 properties, you may want to put each in an individual trust, but it becomes a series. Series 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if for some reason you get sued, they're going to sue that particular trust if you're doing it right. That particular.
So you can kind of separate them.
It's all separated.
This one you can sue me for, but you can't sue me.
You can't sue for that
no.
one.
Okay, because I need this one. You know.
No, you're separating your properties, so you're protecting your assets. So that's all you're doing. But it comes back to as a conversation. Okay, so I've dealt with many families who have trust, right? And sometimes, but the good thing is that you have a trustee, and because when you have 4 or 5 or 6 kids, it's hard to get all of them to agree. So if mom and dad do the right thing and say, I'm going to put my property in the trust, and Renzo will be the trustee. All the rest of the family,
I'll carry the backpack. You
carry the backpack. You're going to make the decision when to sell it and all that kind of good stuff. You will, of course, you let them know, but you have the right to say, okay, you're the trustee. Hey guys, I think we should sell this property, and we all agree, but you're the one that signs off on it, right? So not because, and I've dealt with families who have kids all over the country, and you can't get a contract signed because you got to send to 7 different people, right? And you're going back and forth. It's like, when am I going to get my contract? Well, John is in Texas, you're in Vegas, one's in Colorado. Yeah. And everybody got to sign. But when you have a trustee, the trustee signs, right? Things move along much easier. So it's so important that you put, and some people don't want to put their property in trust. Oh, you're going to kill me off. You know what I'm saying? All you do is protecting your family down the road, protecting your kids. So it's a great thing to do if you're watching, you have not done this yet, and you have property. Please get a trust.
So what if you have life insurance?
That don't matter. That goes in the trust too. Okay. Everything goes in, like you say, it's a backpack.
Because I've heard someone was just like, why do I need that when literally my life insurance is when I die, my kids are going to get a lump sum everyone's going to get a lump sum of money, and
understand, and that's true. You'll get, but then you also putting your kids through the process of still got to go to court, because now you're eating into your kids' life insurance, because now they got to hire an attorney to take care of your title asset. So your kids say, well, yeah, we're getting $10,000 each, but guess what? We got to pay the lawyer $3,000-4,000 because the lawyer got to go to court anyway, because you have to not only you have life insurance, but you have title assets, right? So you're giving your kids money, and then your kids got to give it to somebody else because they got to handle it. All right, so so why not just have a trustee? So when you pass on, the trustee says, okay, here is X, Y, and Z. We all get the X amount of dollars, and we just share it all up. Why pay an attorney that you don't have to do it now? You pay an attorney now, a couple $100 now, or you pay them a couple $1,000 when mom and dad pass away.
Well, okay, yeah, but like I said, I mean, for me as a person, I guess. I guess I'm kind of pushing back. If you don't have that many assets, if you only have like one car to your name, I mean, I don't see why you would need a trust.
If it's a car,
just do that vehicle, do that transfer thing. If you want to give it to your friend or whatever, or just give it to.
If you have title assets,
if you have a lot,
if you got a home, it's worth X amount of dollars. You want to get in the trust.
And I think you're in a very rare spot, and I think it would be useful for our audience to know about this. In the perspective of leaving behind a disabled child, someone with special needs, Can you speak on that in terms of?
Well, that's a little bit more trickier because that's something you got to have a professional to put that together for you. A lawyer, because you want to make sure that your son or daughter is protected in the eventual demise of you. And so there's what's called a special needs trust, and that's something that not a lot of people have, but for those people with special needs kids, you want to have that in place to protect your son or daughter, to make sure that they are protected in the demise.
So where does one go to set up a trust? Just your bank?
No, you want to go to I'm gonna say trust attorney, someone who understands trust, not just your bank. Not all attorneys understand trust. I'm sure all of them can do it, but you want to go to someone that's their forte. That's what they do. And we can refer you guys to attorneys that handles trust. You don't want to go to just your real estate attorney. That doesn't work.
Okay, cool. And so is there so how long would is setting up a trust? Is that like a tedious thing?
No, well, you don't do anything. The attorney handles all the thing. The attorney comes in. The title company.
And how much did you pay for it?
Yeah, it all depends on your assets.
So is it like per asset, per filing?
Yeah. It depends on how much work the attorney needs to do. Right. So some trusts will be cheaper than others because if the attorney doesn't have to do a whole lot, then they'll pull together real quick. But if you have a whole gamut of properties and all that kind of good stuff, there's more work. Because not only you got to do the trust, but you got to if you have properties, you got to transfer all deeds to trust, all that kind of good stuff.
And I know you're not a lawyer, so what about for people who aren't citizens? Could a non-citizen set up a will?
If they have assets, I would believe that they would. If they have assets, yeah, I'm sure they can.
Because the asset belongs to them.
It belongs to them. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure. I mean, there's no reason why that should avoid you from saying, in my eventual demise, I want Renzo to have my car. I don't see any reason why.
What is the reason why?
I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I don't think there's any reason why that would, stop you from doing that.
Good.
That should be good. I mean, you should be like, okay, cool. All right.
Good. And so, do you recommend people to start putting in their wills now? Even so, as a 20-something-year-old, should I start thinking about estate planning?
Well, I go back to.
I mean, I got no kids.
If you don't have any kids, you don't have any interest, or you don't have any title issues, or I say, homes and stuff. I mean, I don't see any reason why you should do that. There's no reason. Once you start getting those things, then that's important to you to say, you know what, I'm gonna get a trust, and if you have any kids, okay, my brother's gonna be my trustee, right? Or my sister gonna be my trustee. So that down the road, at least if something should happen to you, it's all your brother said, oh, it was my brother's property.
And is the trust, and I think this is the biggest thing, is like, oh, that's a rich people thing. That's
that's
so like, does a trust require constant financial?
No, a trust is a private thing.
No, but I'm saying, like, do you pay monthly for a trust or something like that?
You don't have to. Some people pay monthly. Some people put it the Chicago title, or they put it something. But you don't have to register your trust anywhere. That's your private thing. That's private. That's not something you say, well, oh, you know what? I got a trust. I got to put a Chicago title. It's gonna cost me $25 a month. Some people put their trust at the title company. You don't have to.
Okay.
You just got to keep it at home. That's yours, right? But you don't have to pay for it. Once you've done, once the attorney has completed it, it's yours. They give you a file, and your attorney has a copy, and you got a copy.
Huh. Well, is there anything else? I mean, I think that's all I got in terms of estate planning. I mean, as just a young guy, it's nice for me to know, just because it's just like, of course, I want to be a family man one day, so I'm like, but I mean, I'm a Filipino, so the kind of thing we grew up on was, it's like, your oldest brother's gonna handle it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like the eldest will naturally handle it, but
that's not the way it happens.
Yeah,
because your eldest brother could handle it, of course,
but we're still going to court.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to selling a property, if your eldest brother say, I want to retire, I want to go back to the Philippines, so hey guys, I'm going to sell the property. when you go to sell it, the lawyer will say, well, your mom and dad died. Did you have any brothers and sisters? And say, well, yeah, I got a couple other brothers and sisters. I said, well, they need to sign also. And then the money is divvied up equally between all three people.
And how long is that? Do you know how long the probate process takes?
A couple months.
Couple months.
Yeah. Well, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to probate. No, you got to get a court date. The lawyer got to put it together. And you know, if for some reason, I mean, you got to sign it because the property has not yet transferred to your oldest brother. It's still in your mom's name or your dad's name, right? So he can't sell it for starters because he don't have title.
Yeah.
Right. So the only way he can have title, he can sell it, the property is in his name and he is the owner of the property. Other than that, you go through probate, and then everybody got to get involved, and then that's an attorney cost, and that's a longer process, and all that good stuff.
And with the ones that I talked about, those death vehicles, I don't really know what they're called. Don't quote me on it. But those wills and those documents that you can get recorded at the recorder's office.
Court. You still got court issues.
Yeah, but what would, in a perfect world, would happen is you would take the death certificate and you would go back to the city, give the death certificate to the clerk and say, hey, just look up that thing. They'll take the death certificate and they'll register you a new title with your name on it because you've already said that, hey, upon death, you know what I mean? And you
probably want to check with your accountant because you may have some tax issues with that too.
Oh, they said you couldn't. Yeah. You could not file. So if you file these like documents like this will, it's something about, again, not a lawyer, but something along the lines of you can't do it it can't be transferred if there's liens or unpaid taxes.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. If you have a will, and you got to pay those off.
Yeah, so you can't just leave behind unpaid stuff.
No.
And then like, oh, my son's gonna take on my debt.
So you see the will. So the will is not as effective because you got to pay off all your taxes and everything else. You got to pay whatever taxes on those and your credit cards. I think you may have to pay those. You know what I'm saying? But you got to pay what's owed on that estate. But I'm not sure if the credit cards include, but you got to pay what's owed on that estate in order to just get it transferred.
So let me ask this. So that asset, right, $100,000 worth of assets. What about just like a personal loan? What if I right before my dad passes away, he took out a crazy $200,000 loan
on the house?
No, just whatever, just like a loan. You know what I mean? And so with that, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
I think if there's a lien on the property, then you got to pay it. But if it's a personal loan, that's something you got to ask your attorney.
Okay.
Right? But if it's a lien on the property, all that got to be paid before someone can get it transferred to them. All right. So guys, we just jabbering about trust. So this is again the Mill Social Talk Podcast. We thank you guys for listening. We hope you had a good time listening to us. Call us for any information if we have any information for you, or if you want to know something and we don't know it, we will ask somebody. That's how we say, right?
Yeah.
We will ask someone about it. Thanks again for the Mills Social Talk Podcast. You can go to the website at millsreal.com. This will be at themillsreal.com, and you can listen to us at any time talking about all kinds of subjects. Until next time, guys. See you. Peace. Until the next podcast.